This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Friday, the 17th day of March in the year 2023. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. A bipartisan team of U.S. congressional representatives arrived in Guyana last evening for an official two-day visit. Today, they held talks with the government and the opposition. The U.S. Embassy here in Georgetown explained that the chairman of the House Committee on Ways and Means, Congressman Jason Smith, and members of a bipartisan congressional delegation landed in the country on Thursday night. During a luncheon hosted by President Irfan Ali for the delegation, President Ali spoke about the importance of democracy, enhancing trade, and ways of strengthening the overall relationship between Guyana and the U.S. The president also informed the congressional delegation of developments in Guyana and reiterated his government's commitment to a strong partnership with the U.S. in several areas, including energy, food security, climate change, and national security. President Ali also pointed to the shared principles of promoting democracy, the rule of law, and the respect for international law. The chair of the visiting committee commended the president and Guyana for its leadership in a number of areas in the region and pledged continued U.S. support and cooperation in several areas, including support for the modernization of the country's energy and physical infrastructure. Good evening, Mr. President. I know you met earlier today with that bipartisan team from the United States on that two-day visit to Guyana. I'm trying to get an understanding of the meeting, your thoughts of how the meeting went with the government and what were some of the issues discussed with the U.S. officials.
It was an exceptional meeting. Today, it was a meeting focused primarily on the development in the region, how we will strengthen our relationship between the U.S. and Guyana, how we can approach different policy framework in dealing with some of the challenges of the region. It was a meeting that sought to identify common goals, common aspirations. The chairman of the delegation reinforced how important and great it was for the U.S. to support democracy here and how important a value democracy is for the U.S. They congratulated the government on the work that we are doing, and they were very focused on the areas of energy security, the work we are doing in energy security, in climate and environment and food security. So it was a very, very positive meeting focusing on macro policy issues, looking at global challenges, and finding ways and identifying opportunities in which Guyana and the government of Guyana and the U.S. can work closer, deeper, and to strengthen our relationship.
You know, there is the saying that the U.S. has interests, permanent interests and temporary friends. It goes like that. So these relations, in terms of strengthening relations between Guyana and the U.S., this is the second meeting for this week with visiting U.S. officials. What do you think this says about the interest of the U.S. in Guyana at this stage of our development in this age of oil and gas development?
I think that it is a very, very good signal that the U.S. is very keen on expanding this relationship, strengthening our work together between the two governments, identifying priority areas, and working in synergy as we approach global issues, as we expand our own economy. We are very open to investment and investment opportunities here. There are many U.S. firms participating, and the story of Guyana, the progress Guyana is making, and the development taking place in Guyana is a story that is reaching all over the world and is exciting investors, exciting governments. So the interest of the U.S. is not strange. We see the U.S. as a very important partner for Guyana. We share common values and principles. Today that was reinforced on some of the things we stand for, this government, democracy, and so on. So I think that it augurs well for our country.
The visiting U.S. congressional team also met and held talks today with the opposition. Opposition spokesperson on Foreign Affairs, Amanda Walton-Desir, said the meeting went well.
Well, Gordon, thank you. It really was an excellent meeting. Meeting with the bipartisan delegation. I think they have left us with a very clear understanding on where we as the parliamentary opposition stand on the issues of the development of the country. I think they've left with a very clear understanding of the concerns that our supporters and constituents and indeed a large part of the Guyanese population, the concerns that they share as it relates to their ability or inability to participate in the economy in a meaningful manner. I think they understood very clearly that we support inclusive, equitable governance and that we are calling on the current government to really display their commitment to the equitable distribution of our resources and to the equitable development of Guyana overall.
And so I know earlier this week, the opposition also held another meeting with another U.S. official. With all the information that the opposition has been passing on to these visiting U.S. officials, what is the hope at the end of the day for the opposition?
Well, Gordon, I really want to emphasize that it is very important for the parliamentary opposition in any functioning democracy to be able to have a voice to the international community. I think it signals our legitimacy and it helps us, I think, to have our positions on issues effectively communicated. We are locked out of state media, and so these meetings really do present us with the opportunity to present our views, our thoughts, our policies, as it were, as a government in waiting or as an alternative government. So they understand where we stand very clearly on issues because they have heard it from us. So it's very, very important that we continue to engage the diplomatic community, that we continue to engage visiting delegations, such as the 2 delegations we've seen in Guyana this week. It augurs well, I think, for the political climate and for them understanding exactly what our position is on developmental issues.
The team is also expected to meet with prominent business leaders from the U.S. and Guyana to learn firsthand about Guyana's economic growth and development before they depart on Saturday. The visit, according to the U.S. Embassy, seeks to further examine the bilateral and economic cooperation between Guyana and the U.S. The House Committee on Ways and Means is the oldest committee of the U.S. Congress. More news coming up in just a moment.
It's been a long time coming. Overdue, some might say. But now that it's here, it will change life forever. And it is here to stay. The future is now. Transforming Guyana into the 21st century. Introducing GTT Fiber. Experience internet connectivity like never before. Speeds you deserve at prices you can afford from a name you can trust. Sign up today. GTT Fiber is here. GTT. Together, we rise faster.
At Giftland Office Max, we're all about customer satisfaction. Whether it's clothing and shoes for the ladies, gents, and kids, or for the latest electronics or hardware appliance, we're always thinking of satisfying you, our dear customers. Now you can shop online at www.giftlandofficemax.com or visit us at the Giftland Mall, where we're happy to serve each and every one of you.
At the most critical life-changing moments, the National Insurance Scheme is here to ensure that your needs are covered. Access reimbursement for medical expenses for various aspects of your medical care. We know that eye care is of utmost importance. Receive assistance with our Spectacle Care voucher. Visiting the dentist? Dental care is also covered under our sickness benefit services. Offset the funeral expenses of a loved one with costs covered by our funeral benefits. National Insurance Scheme. We're there every step of the way.
Bust the flavors. We're full of flavors. Bust the flavors that me crave for. We're full of flavors. Tell your neighbors about the Buster flavors. Grab a Buster flavors. Yeah, thirst buster. Grab a Buster flavor, taste the savor. Buster flavors. Buster flavors.
Strong and solid in countries far and wide. New India Assurance, we're standing by your side. Golden service, half a century and more. New India Assurance, our policies are secure. From the heart of India, we serve these islands. The strength that you can trust, you're safe when you come to us. New India Assurance Company. Assurance when you need it most.
For your home, motor or business insurance, visit New India Guyana office, 58 Brickdam next to Star Computers. Telephone 2260-415-7. Comfortable parking available.
Let's tell you now that a $35.4 million contract, which was signed last week between the Guyana government and the German company for the implementation of an electronic identification system, is not finding favor with the opposition. The opposition has rejected both the procurement process and the non-consultation of the project. Executive member of the People's National Congress Reform, Mervyn Williams, said the government appears to be comfortable enforcing projects on citizens without first consulting them, even though those projects have the potential to directly affect them.
The government, in haste, signed the US $35 million contract with a German-based company for a single electronic identification system and cards that will be issued to Guyanese. There was no public consultation, no parliamentary review, no new legislation, and no proper public procurement procedure. The electronic ID card deal was simply dumped on the Guyanese people. The entire process is teemed with potential for corruption.
Mr. Williams said the government has not taken note of the far-reaching implications that a project might have, raising concerns over citizens' privacy and comfort levels, the security and integrity of the central data system that will produce the cards and store data, and the continued use of the current ID cards, especially for voting.
We warn again that the PPP's lack of accountability and transparency, and note that it will continue to create greater mistrust between government and its citizens. And greater mistrust leads to greater social and political instability. The PPP regime seems to be hell-bent on raising tensions in our society at a time when we should be working together to ensure that all Guyanese benefit from our oil and gas resources.
The Guyana Human Rights Association has also raised concerns over the project, but those concerns have been dismissed by the government. There have also been calls for the project to be put on pause, pending consultations. Long-standing Elections Commissioner Vincent Alexander today said though the Guyana Elections Commission is responsible for the issuance of identification cards under the National Registration Act, it was not consulted on the single electronic identification system the government intends to implement over the next 12 months, the EID card.
So again, one does not know where we are going because GCOM has not been brought into the picture. Critical to the work of GCOM from the electoral perspective is the national ID card. But here you have an implementation of a system without GCOM being told what its role would be in the future from the perspective of being a stakeholder for national ID cards and being the agency that has traditionally produced under the National Registration Act those ID cards.
The Elections Commissioner said though he is not opposed to the utilization of an integrated identity solution, in the absence of consultation, a legal framework and critical information, the project as it stands is vague and leaves many lingering questions.
Certainly such an initiative is the way to go. It's where the world has gone and where the world Those who haven't gone are going. So one cannot interfere with that kind of database, national database. It is something almost universal now. But in pursuing such a database, you have to be sure about the legal framework. We do not have a legal framework in place at this point in time. You have to ensure that such a database is distant from an executive so that you can't have political forces manipulating the information in that database. It needs to be an insulated, autonomous body that manages such a database. These are issues that are unknown.
Alexander said while the Attorney General Anil Nandlal has indicated that the government intends to put legislative framework in place to facilitate the e-identification card system, it would appear the government has placed the cart before the horse.
And I would think that one does not start by creating the database in the ID card. One starts by creating the legal framework within which this ID card should be produced and operated. We are starting at the wrong end in that regard as far as I'm concerned. We're told in a year you'll have the card, and then we're told, and we're dealing with legislation on this matter. Now, the card has to speak to the legislation, not the legislation speak to the card. But we seem to have a situation where in somebody's head they know what they want to do, so they're doing the card, and then legislation will come later. And there are elements of contempt in things like these. Because legislation is a function of the parliament. A parliament is not the government, it's not the executive.
Ahead of signing the US multi-million-dollar contract with Veridos, a German-based company, President Irfan Ali said the electronic identification system, which will entail the capturing of biometric data, will see every citizen being assigned a unique national registration number, which will be used both by the public and private sectors for the conduct of various transactions, such as those conducted at commercial banks or at the Guyana Revenue Authority. In his initial announcement, the president said the eID card would be separate and apart from the national ID card issued by GCOM. But Ms. Alexander said in the absence of a legislative framework, one cannot be too certain. Further, the Elections Commissioner reminded that GCOM had long been exploring the use of biometrics and the multi-purpose ID card. He said though a motion was put to the Commission just last year for the use of biometrics, the government had made it clear that it was not in support of such a move. But now, months later, he said the government is moving to implement an even more complicated system.
What is behind backing off from GCOM and its biometric approach, but now introducing a system that is far more complex than what GCOM would have done, given the fact that GCOM itself was exploring the possibility of a system similar to what is now being implemented.
Alexander wants to know whether the electronic system would also incorporate births and deaths and or the use of a zip code.
Guyana, ride into the future with the next generation eco-friendly Axiom installed elevators and escalators. Call us today on telephone number 619-0899 or 648-0934. Email us at axiomliftsgy@gmail.com for affordable elevators, escalators, moving walks, industrial lifts, home solutions, modernization, repair, and servicing. Axiom Elevator Services, technology for people on the move.
Sundress Soiree, Champagne and Cocktail Event, Saturday, April 8th at Everest Cricket Ground. Contribution $8,000. This is a day into night event. Doors open from 3 p.m. to 1 a.m. Free cocktail hour, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Sundress soiree. You know the vibes.
The Minister of Labour, Joe Hamilton, is set to appoint a commission of inquiry into the fatal mining incident at Bauxite Bauxite Mines in Linden, which claimed the life of a veteran miner. In a statement, the Ministry of Labour announced that the minister's action to appoint the Commission of Inquiry to probe the incident is in keeping with the Occupational Safety and Health Act. The Act gives the minister the power to direct formal investigations into any accident arising out of and in the course of employment of any worker where he considers it expedient to do so. The Commission of Inquiry will be responsible to determine the cause or causes of the accident and make recommendations for the prevention of accidents generally, and more in particular, the recurrence of similar accidents. A statement from the Ministry of Labour said the minister is deeply concerned about the matter and holds the view that the accident should never have occurred, and he owes it to the family, the co-workers and the community of Linden to ensure that there are no recurrences. He said that's why they will be appointing the Commission of Inquiry. The bulldozer operator Neptune Hercules went missing in the early hours of last Saturday morning, along with the heavy-duty equipment he was operating. Early investigations found that the accident was as a result of a failure experienced by the overburdened dump where he was working in the East Montgomery mines in Linden, which caused them to be covered by the overburdened material. The body of Mr. Hercules was found 3 days after the incident following an extensive search. Meanwhile, the Occupational Safety and Health Department has informed the Bauxite Company that a suspension of work activities in the middle dump of the Montgomery mines where the accident occurred will remain in place. The lifeless body of a still-to-be-identified woman was found on Uniform Beach on the island of Laguan in the Essequibo region this morning. The police were summoned to the scene by a caller who reported seeing a woman's dead body on the beach. In a statement, the Guyana Police Force said the woman was found facing upwards and the body was clad only in a black brassiere. There was a silver chain around her neck and a silver ring on one of her fingers. The body has since been transported from the area. According to the police, black and blue marks were noticed between the legs of the body and to the side of the body. The police force has released this photograph of the woman's face, hoping that she could be identified. An investigation into the death has been launched. 3 Venezuelan men who were nabbed in the Winey River in Region 1 after allegedly attacking and robbing 2 Guyanese fishermen of their boat and outboard engine have been charged and remanded to jail after pleading guilty to some of the charges. The 3 Venezuelans, 23-year-old Jose Berea, 21-year-old Alejandro Valenzuela, and 23-year-old Reniel Valenzuela appeared in court earlier this week at Diamond, where the charges of armed robbery, hijacking, and piracy were read to them. All 3 of the men pleaded guilty to the armed robbery charge. However, they have been remanded to jail until the 22nd of May for sentencing. They are also facing a charge of possession of firearms and ammunition without a license. The 3 were nabbed after attacking 2 Guyanese fishermen in the early hours of the morning on the 7th of March in the Winey River. The fishermen said they were awakened by the men who had guns pointed at them. After robbing the Guyanese fishermen of their boat and outboard engine, the 3 Venezuelan pirates attempted to flee to their homeland, but were cornered by a police and Coast Guard team that had been dispatched to investigate the pirate attack.
Food Max Supermarket, located on the ground floor of the Giftland Mall, is your one-stop shop for all your grocery needs. We stock a variety of imported frozen meat and food products, fresh produce, and pet supplies, freshly made bread. Rotisserie chicken and patties are also available daily. Shop in comfort today at Food Max and let our courteous staff assist you in satisfying your shopping needs. Food Max, the fresh food specialist.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true. Or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Look who's in the mix now. The new Buster Soda Water. 0 calories, 0 sugar, 0 artificial flavors. 100% refreshing. Taste Buster Soda Water today. Buster Soda Water. Now available for only $120.
Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up. Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up. Protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guy Oil Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guy Oil's Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive.
Across the region tonight, a staff mission from the International Monetary Fund has again said it is encouraging the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank in Trinidad to remove all restrictions on current international transactions as a means of creating a more investment-friendly business environment that would drive the diversification of the economy in Trinidad and Tobago. The advice of the IMF team is that Trinidad and Tobago should remove foreign exchange restrictions while providing enough foreign exchange to meet the demand for all current international transactions. The encouragement came in its concluding statement following the international financial institutions' consultations with the Trinidad and Tobago authorities. Those consultations lasted from the 1st to the 14th of March. In the report, the IMF staff said a more efficient foreign exchange infrastructure would help eliminate foreign exchange shortfalls in Trinidad and Tobago. Among the current restrictions of the Trinidad and Tobago foreign exchange regime include a limitation in the movement of Trinidad and Tobago's main exchange rate, the US dollar to the Trinidad and Tobago dollar, to a narrow band. In Belize, a 32-year-old American man who claimed that he came to Belize seeking asylum has been ordered to be deported to the North American country after he appeared in court. The magistrate's court heard that Gregory Aaron Brown of Connecticut had been living in Belize illegally. When he appeared before the acting chief magistrate on an immigration offense, Brown was handed a non-custodial sentence, but was unable to pay the fine of 1,000 Belizean dollars. A removal order has since been granted and Brown must be deported to the U.S. within 2 weeks of paying his fine or completing his sentence. And finally tonight, international news. The International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin. The court alleges that he is responsible for war crimes and has focused its claims on the unlawful deportation of children from Ukraine to Russia. It says the crimes were committed in Ukraine from the 24th of February 2022 when Russia launched its full-scale invasion. Moscow has denied the allegations and labeled the warrants as outrageous. It is highly unlikely that much will come of the move. The ICC has no powers to arrest suspects and can only exercise jurisdiction within its member countries, and Russia is not one of them. However, it could affect the president in other ways, such as being unable to travel internationally. In a statement, the International Criminal Court said it had reasonable grounds to believe that Mr. Putin committed the criminal acts directly, as well as working with others. It also accused him of failing to use his presidential powers to stop children from being deported. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight and this week. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.